We'll get started. Welcome to our webinar on designing customer programs that support upsell and expansion. Let me share my screen. Great. So welcome, everybody. So as you know, driving upsell and expansion opportunities with existing customers is critical for the growth and the sustainability of any B2B company. We really need to, as customer marketers, we really need to focus on building those strong customer relationships and driving value beyond the initial sale to retain customers and grow revenue. Before we dive in, let's take a moment and have our speakers introduce themselves. No particular order, anybody can go.
Okay, well, I'm the only one not on mute. So hi, Anat Oron, Director of Customer Marketing from Radware.
I'll go next. Hey y'all, Mason Sokana, Director of Customer Marketing at Egnyte.
And I'm Stefano, and I was most recently the Director of Customer Marketing at Fivetran.
Well, great to have you all with us today. So in today's economy, we see it's critical for customer marketers like us to be able to explain our value to the organization. Now more than ever, we're always thinking about how we and our programs are influencing revenue and what type of impact do we have on the organization. And lastly, how do we really influence growth? So on today's webinar, we're going to explore the importance of understanding our customer needs, their behaviors, preferences, and then leveraging data-driven insights to create targeted and personalized campaigns. We're going to discuss best practices for customer segmentation, account-based marketing, cross-selling, upselling, and different tactics that can help us drive revenue growth. Before we get into it, few housekeeping items. Obsession is going on tour. Obsession is a single-day gathering. It's designed by and for CMOs, customer marketers, advocacy, reference, lifecycle marketing, community managers, really any of us, those personas that drive the evolution of customer-led growth. Those that are going to attend, and I hope to see a lot of you there, are going to have a chance to hear from top performing brands like HubSpot, TrustRadius, and Google. So it's going to give us a chance to come together, learn from each other, network, and mostly try to have some fun together. We do have call for speakers still open for the different locations in San Francisco, Boston, and New York. Nitzan is going to drop the link in the chat, or you can ping me afterwards for more details. Next up, stay in the know, things that are happening. We will have a follow-up roundtable discussion where we can come together, different people, different organizations, diverse experiences, where we can continue sharing our knowledge and experiences, network, keep up with latest trends, and gain inspiration and motivation from other customer marketers around upsell and expansion. We do have the CLG campus, and Nitzan again is going to share a link to that, where on campus we have the academy, podcast, templates, a whole lot of resources for customer marketers to use in their day-to-day. And then finally, we're going to have the Q&A open throughout the session. So we do encourage you to ask questions as we go along. We'll try to answer them as we progress in the webinar. And then if you do ask a question on chat and we don't get to it live because of timing, we'll make sure to answer the question and share that with the community post the webinar. And with that, I want to share a little bit about BASE. So BASE is a customer marketing and advocacy platform that helps engage customers in their post-sale journey. So in addition to the preference and advocacy use cases that we have, we also support in identifying and running upsell campaigns. So for me, I run BASE's customer programs, and I wanted to share an example with you that I think will resonate with a lot of the customer marketers on this call around referrals. So referrals is a feature that we use at BASE to upsell to customer marketers also already using our platform. So to start off, we segment our audience based on rule-based criteria. So for example, if a customer uses the reference feature but doesn't use the referral, if a customer has a customer-facing portal and doesn't use referrals. So we start segmenting by the different features that they're using. And then we start getting into, we want to find our happy customers. So we'll segment by NPS, and then we'll look for customers who've been with us for at least 6 months. Once we identify those customers, we run campaigns to nurture and educate our target audience. So for example, we can share different stats with them or videos around referrals or case studies from other customers and so on and so on. And then once we qualify our leads, we help automate pushing them into our CRM. And then finally, measuring and visualizing the impact on that bottom line. I'm happy to share my playbook with anybody on this call. So feel free to ping me after. And I'll share that to help motivate and inspire you in your own campaigns. And with that, I want to pass this on to Anat to share her expertise and experiences.
Okay, so let me go.
So I'm going to stop sharing, Anat.
Yeah. Okay. Are you seeing my presentation okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So I already introduced myself. I'm the Director of Customer Marketing at Radware. I'm based in Israel. I lived in Singapore. I lived in New York. This year, I'm relocating to the Netherlands for a few years, just so it won't be boring. I've been in marketing for, 2 decades now in various roles, but always in technology companies and global roles for many years in HP. And from where I'm today, I can tell you customer marketing is definitely the place to be. So a little bit about Radware and also about Radware Link, because I will be talking about Radware Link. So Radware is a cybersecurity company. If you haven't heard about it, it's traded in NASDAQ, but it's headquartered in Israel. We have about 1,100 employees globally. We're a leader in this industry, particularly in DDoS. So that's denial of service protection, application security, bot management, application delivery. And remember this list because, well, when we get to the heart of the matter, I'll tell you why it's important. Our customers, as you can see here, are some of the largest, companies in the world: SAP, Salesforce, Vodafone, Deutsche Telekom, and so on and so forth. So a lot of the 500 top 500 companies are in our install base. We also have some key partners like Cisco and Checkpoint and Microsoft and others. That said, we really play in a super competitive market. So customers, and especially our customers in cloud solutions, can really jump from one vendor to another super quickly, like overnight, almost, I want to say. 3 years ago, Radware decided that they realized that they needed customer marketing to be run separately from prospect marketing, and they hired me to basically form the customer marketing department. Now, Radware Link here is the customer program I built in these 3 years. and the engine that sits behind a major part of it. So the advocacy, the loyalty program that Rana mentioned before, and also soon the community is actually Base. Okay, so we're one of the first Base customers, and we have a lot of good stories to tell. So just a few facts and figures to explain why every company cares about cross-selling, really. I mentioned 50% here, but I really think it's 90. Many tech companies, B2B tech companies, sell a lot of what it sells to its existing customers. Sometimes it's shocking as to how much and how heavily we rely on our existing customers. And new logos are the growth engine. Okay, so they're absolutely necessary, but install base is always the bread and butter and a lot beyond. And I just picked a couple facts here that I think are super interesting, because cross-selling also means retention. It means it grows the customer lifetime value. So there are a lot of ways to look at it and understand why it's important and how. So every customer is in fact also a prospect, right? They purchase something from us, and they're here in the journey. And then there's, you know, the post-sale part of the journey. But then it's important that we notice that they're prospects for the rest of the portfolio. So customers as an asset should be protected, you know, in any way, because it is so easy for us to approach them. So I'll talk a little bit about cross-selling in my world, because I really think it means different things in different you know, companies. So I find this topic, today's topic, fascinating, because your management can tell you that they care about many things. They care about, in the customer world, they care about engagement and satisfaction. They care about NPS, churn, advocacy, you name it. But mostly, to be honest, they care about selling more. And there are many reasons why, good reasons that go beyond the immediate dollars on the spreadsheet. But put aside the why for a second. I want to focus on the what and the how here. So remember, I told you to keep in mind Radware's portfolio of solutions. When a prospect, as I showed you, acquires a solution and becomes a customer, they immediately also become candidates or prospects, as we call them, for the other products and solutions in the portfolio, which they haven't yet purchased from us. So our job is really to ensure their exposure to the relevant products and solutions, and always to keep them top in mind for customers. Now, in my eyes, top thought leadership content keeps customers close to us. Okay, that is why it's important. So it's a source of knowledge. In my world, threat reports, threat intelligence, threat analysis, things like that are always the most consumed content, and customers just keep coming back for more, because this is when they can go back after they've consumed this content, go back to their management and tell them that they know what's going on out there. Okay, next slide. All right. So when do we actually want to start selling to a customer? I think the post-sale journey is a very gentle dance, okay? Post-selling doesn't start on day one of a new customer. So you really don't want to pitch anything to a new customer. You want them to feel at home. You want to hold their hand through the onboarding and make sure they're comfortable with what they have purchased. And then over time, you deepen the relationship with them, right? This is when we start sending threat alerts. We nurture them with research. There are a lot of things that you can do. You cannot talk to them in these stages, again, from my perspective, about buying more. So in my world, about 8 months in, after they've purchased something, and if their condition allows, from a support perspective, from a satisfaction perspective, we can start feeding them with content that exposes them again to the content that will lead them to buy additional solutions. Okay, So this is really crucial. And I find many times that we need to be almost the watchdogs of not trying to sell to customers, right? Let them see the value of our solution first, we'll get there. So it's a matter of a process and time. Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to give you just a taste of how I think campaigns should be structured. So when you start creating cross-sell campaign, there's a way to structure the content from the top of the funnel here and all the way to the bottom of the funnel, basically from general content to very specific product content, okay? So in this example, I used the solution that's called Bot Manager. It's one of our products for fighting bad bots. And you start with the business theme, okay? So it's very high level. It should be like a common topic, common denominator for the entire portfolio that you can talk about in events and in PR and kind of a theme. And then you go into business aspect, okay? So again, from an industry perspective, your industry. So here, basically we're saying bots are taking over the internet, okay? It triggers interest. And here you start feeding them or nurturing them with third-party content, white papers, webinars, not necessarily yours, mostly industry, okay? And then you start talking about your point of view. And right towards the bottom of the funnel, you start actually nurturing with product and solution content, okay? So it has to take time. And it can't be, you know, in your face from day one because people won't care about it. And I think it's really important to do this right. So again, just to show this in a more, I don't know, real example. So top of funnel, here you map the content, right? So what is the problem they should be aware of? A lot of thought leadership here, show your expertise, prove it to customers. You want to create disruption here in this phase. And then mid of funnel, you start educating. White papers, webinars, advocacy content, solution briefs, you know, anything and everything here. And then bottom of funnel, you go into product content, you offer demos, you offer trials, things like that. So you're a lot more specific for those who made it to the bottom of the funnel. And this is an example of a campaign that we run on Radware Link, so on the base platform, okay? So basically you're asking them something to understand if they're your target audience, they're the right people for this. If they answer yes, you go into the next ask, okay? So you propose content, you basically nurture them. And then after they've consumed it and showed interest, you offer them a sales call. Okay, so this can be a lot longer or just as short as this, but it works. Okay, almost done. So I think it's really important. Every management really thinks very different, right? But Romy is loved by everyone. So people want to see the return on marketing investment. They all want to see the numbers. So my specific KPIs, again, it's really, you know, it differs, but when it comes to cross-selling, I focus on ARR, I'll talk about that, and on cloud adoption. And these are two things that are really important for my management. So ARR means annual recurring revenue. It basically measures subscriptions, support contracts. A lot of SaaS companies use it for measuring recurring revenue. And because it's only applicable to existing accounts, growing the ARR will mean that cross-selling was successful. Okay, so that is very straightforward. And then cloud adoption is a key area of focus because a lot of our existing customers are moving to the cloud, to the public cloud, and need protection there. So we always want to ensure they adopt cloud solutions from us and move away from the on-premise solutions. And one other thing that's called out here, I always make it a point to mention the difference between customers who are members of my customer program, Radware Link, and those who are not, because you can really see in every KPI, and we have many, you're seeing the difference. It is very, very clear and straightforward. Yep, and that is my spiel for today.
So we have a couple of questions for you, Anat, and then we'll answer those. And Aaron, I see your question. We'll get back to it because it's more high level. So one person is asking Anat, how can the customer marketing or advocacy team enable the CSM team to easily upsell and cross-sell? What's your favorite top best practices? Asking for somebody from another cybersecurity company.
Okay, so one thing we do with the CSM team, well, it's really, we're in a relationship, right? So they give us, we give them. One thing we support them with is assets of advocacy. Okay, so basically customer reviews, customer case studies, customer quotes, logos, it really helps. Okay, so in a conversation or in a QBR, mention another customer who said that, or who was successful in deploying this, that, or the other has proven to be very, very successful. So this, I think, is one of the things. We're also asking them to invite people to the customer program and, reward them in return. So it's another, conversation topic that's always great. I think that is like the
good ones. Great. And then we have another question. Do you only upsell to customers in Radware Link or to all customers?
No, to all customers. Yeah. But we have good representation of our accounts in Radware Link, of our active accounts. Yes. No, of course,
And
we
then
help everyone.
last but not least for you, and then we're moving on to Lauren, are these the campaigns that you presented in Radware Link? Are they net new acquisitions or only targeting existing customers?
Radware Link is only open to existing customers. They access, and again, it's our case, they access through the Okta, through our single sign-on. So it's only existing customers who can do that. Okay, so there's no access from the outside, which means we're only targeting our existing accounts already.
Great, thank you. So Lauren, as we move on to you, I'm going to start off with asking the panel a question, and anybody feel free to answer. This one is from Aaron. Would love to hear your perspective about customer marketing strategy. What you see as essential components. How does a customer marketing strategy relate to the organization's overall marketing strategy? And if you were to put your customer marketing strategy on a one-pager, what would you include to keep it crisp and concise?
I think there's a whole podcast season in there. It's a really big question, but I would say first and foremost, it's really making sure that you're aligned to the overall company goals. So you can't just build a customer marketing strategy in isolation. It's really about understanding what are the things that are the most important to the company and thinking about how customer marketing can further those goals. So are there specific products or specific segments of customers or specific packages or other things like that you're really interested in or that are going to move the needle for the company? Start from there and then think about who are your customers, how can you provide value to your customers in a way that ultimately helps further those company goals.
And that, Mason, anything you want to share around that topic?
No, that was very well said by Lauren. I think it's aligning your goals to the company's goals and figuring out what matters most to the company, right? We are all marketers, so we all have internal customers that we need to think and worry about. And then, being able to work toward those through all the different tactics that we described, right? Through, segmentation and creating the customer journey and understanding the profiles and personas, right? So I think, knowing what where the organization is working toward is probably the biggest step in defining that customer marketing strategy and having those upsell and cross-sell expansion types of conversations.
Absolutely. Great. And with that, Lauren, the floor is yours.
All right, well, I think that is a good segue, because what I want to do is to really bring forward some of the best practices, I think, between Rona's introduction and showing us some of what she does behind the scenes and hearing from Anat. You've seen some really good examples. I'm going to try to kind of pull it back up a level and talk a little bit about how you might get to some of those campaign specifics. So hopefully you can all see this. So first and foremost, it's all about targeting, right? I think customer marketing is first and foremost, fundamentally, it's just marketing. And so all of the same things that you might think about if you were thinking about a prospecting campaign, you're going to think about when it comes to your customers as well. So there's a lot of different ways that you can slice and dice your customer audience. And I want to run through a couple of different approaches, and you'll probably want to use some combination of these depending on your goals. But first and foremost, targeting is always the answer. I think something that I've seen a lot that I know others have come across as well is something new is being launched, and this is the best thing ever, and it's perfect for all of our customers, and so we need to tell everybody about it all the time forever. And that is a wonderful sentiment, and it's almost always wrong, right? What we really need to do is to think about who is this really for and what is the benefit. Even if it's for everyone, it's probably not for everyone in exactly the same way. And we probably want to do some segmentation of our message as we're talking about, whatever this new bright shiny thing is. So first and foremost, always target. How do you target? Lots of different approaches. I think, again, you've seen some really good examples of that from Rona and Anat. So first of all, behavior, right? Can you look at what your customer is already doing? How are they engaging with a product? Are they using it frequently? Are they doing things that might indicate that they are interested in something else, right? Are they looking up the documentation for a product that they don't already have? Are they adding some new users, or maybe users that are in a different role than what they already have? Are they increasing what they're doing? You're just seeing stronger engagement. All of those things could be signals that they're ready to do something else. Profiling is another great example, right? So this is, think about it almost like a lookalike model, right? Think about who is our customer. What does a customer that has already expanded look like? How can we back into that and find other folks that look like these customers that have been successful? And then finally, leverage all of those internal folks that have really strong relationships with your customers. So talk to your customer success or your sales teams, the people that are really working with the customer day in and day out. Hear from your executives. Oh, I met this person at a conference. We talked about this. It seems like they're really interested. Great, right? Think about who might be in an ABM program, or just literally go through a book of business line by line with a CS or an AE and understand what's going on in those customers. Now, obviously, these are very different levels of scale. Something that is highly scaled, like the behavioral piece, right? You're going to put it together. It's going to be programmatic. It's going to be running on its own, and you'll make optimizations, but it's kind of going to run itself over time. That obviously is great for anything that is more transactional, or maybe you're trying to just build up some leads for something that ultimately is a more one-to-one sale. When you get down to the bottom, now you're talking about a really individualized approach. So that's really going to be more for a higher end, higher tier account typically. The other thing I think these more manual approaches are really good for is a proof of concept. So sometimes to do a behavioral program requires a lot of technical investment. We've got to get the data flowing. We've got to get it into this system, that system. We have to, understand all these things, sometimes in real time or close to it. It can be a lot of work. So it may make sense to, let's find some customers that we think will do really well in this type of program. Let's handpick them. Let's manually send the campaign. Let's see how it does. And now we have sort of our reasons to believe, our proof of concept, that it's worth doing the rest of the work.
So Lauren wants to know, before you move on, Lauren wants to know, how do you target when you don't have role-based info in your CRM?
I mean, that I think is the eternal question, right? I think no matter how much data you have, you never quite have everything that you wish you had. And I would say there, it's one, doing the best you can with what you have. So as much as you might like to start from the end state of, I want to target users who meet these criteria and then go and find those folks. Sometimes you have to get creative, flip it on its head and say, well, this is what I do know. How closely can I map the information that I have to what I wish I had, and kind of start from there. And then the other piece is to see what you can do if you can kind of get scrappy and pull some of those audiences together manually, even if it's just for a couple of test sends, just to see, is there a there? And then you have a little bit more of that business case to go and say, hey, we really need access to this data to build the program out to make it really successful in the long run.
And we find, I can say from my experience, we wish we can find clean CRMs, but they usually aren't. And a lot of the data is missing. So those companies that do have a community can engage with the customers and ask them, what's your role? What's your expertise? What's your level? And then capture the data and move forward from there.
Awesome. So once you have your targeting put together, you have to actually go out and reach folks. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. I'm not going to go into all of them here, but just wanted to give some thoughts. I think email is like the first thing that typically comes to mind when we think about upsell and cross-sell. Email is awesome. It works, but also, it can get a little overused. So it's good to have a marketing mix, right? Get folks' attention in different ways. I love in-app if it's something that they can do right now. So, hey, you're interested in this section of the product. Guess what? That is an upgraded package. Do you want to click here? Try it out. Retargeting is something that can also be really successful, typically kind of cost effective, a good way to just get in front of folks. Potentially folks that aren't logging into your product. So maybe they're more of an executive stakeholder, or maybe they're somebody that's just a little bit disengaged. So they're not going to see some of these other channels, but you can get in their LinkedIn feed and just remind them, hey, we're here and here's something new that we have that you might not be aware of that we'd like to make sure you know about. Leveraging your community of customers, super important. Leveraging your other communications, right? So don't be shy about putting in to your customer newsletter mentions of features that maybe aren't included in every package. It's really important for customers to understand what's in a different package, and they may feel that, oh, well, that's not for me. Well, that's great. I feel really good about where I am, and I know that I'm not overpaying. Or maybe they feel, hey, that would be great. That would be so useful to me. Maybe I should talk about what it would take for me to get access to that feature or to that other product or whatever it is. And then finally, this came up a little bit already, but customer success or your account team, whatever role they're under, can be a really, really strong partner in all of this. And the goal is to really work with them, right? They're another channel. So do they know this is the content that you're sending out? Do they have talking points so that if somebody calls them and says, hey, I got this email from you, it talked about this, it was really interesting, had all this thought leadership, or mentioned you have this new product. Do they know how to respond to that? So make sure that you're really treating them as a channel and working with them to create that really great, really cohesive customer experience. And then finally, you got to measure, right? So you've done all this, you've put it into place. How do you understand what's really working? And I think one of the challenges of customer marketing, especially if you are in more of an enterprise space where you've got a longer sales cycle, it's a little bit more of a complex deal. it can be really hard to know if what you're doing is working and how you're really helping to move the needle. So I think you really need to use a mix of the leading and the lagging indicators to help you understand how things are doing and what's working. So first and foremost is engagement. I think sometimes, we get so focused on the end and the revenue that we kind of throw out engagement as unimportant. And it's not the be all and end all, but it's also not nothing, right? If you're putting out tons of communications and nobody's engaging, that tells you something. And you need to think about what your message is, and you need to think about whether there's another way of positioning it, whether you have the right targeting in place. If you've got tons of folks that are coming in and they're engaging with your content, that is a really strong indicator that you're on the right track and you should keep going in that direction. And then from there, again, the stuff in the middle is going to change a little bit from company to company, depending on, your sales cycle. In some cases, maybe you've got a customer just clicking a few buttons and making an additional purchase, and all this is very compressed. In other cases, it's going to be a more traditional sales cycle that they're going through again in order to make the purchase. But just make sure that you're really thinking about what are all the places along the way that can help us understand what's going on. It's just like any other sales funnel. And we want to understand how folks are moving through, where they're getting stuck, where they're falling out. And then we want to make sure that we're understanding not only, hey, we've booked these expansions and we have some initial conversion data that we can show, but what is that long-term impact on the revenue, on the NRR? And I think this is what Anat was talking about, where, hey, we see that once customers have grown, they're going to grow again, and they're going to grow more and more. And so it's actually like an exponential effect that we see. So making sure that you're really showing that full picture, I think, can be really impactful when you're thinking about proving out the value of customer marketing. One thing here as well is think about how can you make it easy for folks to move through the funnel, and how can you potentially track some of that along the way? So can you include a discount code at the end of an ebook or a webinar or some other type of marketing material that now not only helps hopefully get that person over the edge, but also helps you follow them and understand where they came from, how they got there? Can you think about ways to align the customer's incentives with the business's examples, right? So for example, if you're in a model where you charge based on usage, can you encourage customers to do something else? Maybe you give them a little bit of free usage to get them over a threshold, let them see the value of making it up over to that next usage tier. So those are all just things to keep in mind as you're designing your programs and as you're measuring them.
So we have a few questions from our participants. One is, how do you attribute the conversations? Because a lot of times it takes different teams to upsell an account, right? You've got the account managers, the CSM, sales, everyone's involved. So how do you do that attribution?
I mean, again, that's a $1 million question in the industry right now. I think it's the same challenges that we see on the prospect side, right? How do you attribute a really complex and multifaceted set of touch points, right, that don't necessarily go in the linear path that we like to think about it as marketers? But I think it's a few things. So one is, I would say, mirror the approach that your demand gen or acquisition teams are using, because that's going to be something that your company is already comfortable with, people are familiar with. Hopefully there's some methodology there that already has buy-in. So like, as much as you can, take that and adapt it for customer marketing, and make sure you're tracking all of the points along the way. I think that's where it's really helpful if you can start to say, sure, we have this ultimate goal of revenue and of the conversion, and maybe that comes through a sales team. But just like we track on our MQLs and all of our other touch points on the way to an initial purchase, here's what that customer journey looks like. And yes, they interacted with marketing in these 3 ways. They They opened an email, they came to a webinar, they engaged in our community, they spoke to us at an event, they, speak to their CSM on this regular cadence and asked about our materials. So I think all of those pieces, if you can start to put it together, is going to give you that story. Just like on demand gen, there's never going to be a perfect answer, and you're not going to be able to say, well, that one touch point contributed 23% of their decision to purchase. But you can start to get to some of that idea around how have we influenced, and just making sure it's really clear. Hey, we're in 90% of the expansion journeys, right? We're in the mix of all of these conversations and all of these outcomes.
Cool. And I have another question, and I love this question. So it's open to anyone on the panel. How do you measure or identify where customers are in the customer life cycle so you can choose what kind of content to serve up to them?
Yeah, I think that my personal approach is wherever you can, if you're taking a data-driven perspective, so if you're thinking about it from a usage point of view, is how can you understand what the customer is doing relative to themselves? So rather than setting specific thresholds of they need to have this many logins or they need to do these activities, just understanding, is this customer steady state? Are they growing, or are we seeing them start to drop off? I think that to me is the most important question that helps you understand, like, what mode should we be in, right? Should we be, we were talking about expansions today, but there's obviously also a role for customer marketing on the retention save side. Should we be going in that direction? Should we be bringing in more of an expansion conversation? Because we see really great things happening here.
Absolutely. Great. And with that, Mason, we're on to you.
All right. Hey, y'all. Let me just get my presentation up. Okay. So as mentioned, I'm Mason Sokana. I currently run all of our global expansion programs with the support of my team of two. We've kind of divided up some roles. Some folks on my team are more on the inbound and event side, digital webinars, et cetera. And then the other part of my team is really heavily focused on this concept of sales plays and that partnership with sales. Previously, I ran expansion programs for Auth0, who's now Okta, and Rackspace. And I really cut my teeth on customer marketing by being a seller at IBM. I was selling IBM Cloud. So, carrying the bag and having a patch that I needed to grow really kind of helped me put some of these, kind of catapulted me into this kind of upsell expansion type of world. So a little bit about Egnyte. We're a multi-cloud platform, and we make file management simple, seamless, secure, no matter where you work, what device. We're protecting your most critical content from threats, ransomware, and other things, while maintaining compliance and facilitating collaboration internally, externally, whatever it may be. We were founded in 2008, and we have about a little bit over 17,000 customers. We have multiple plans depending on your business type, multiple optional services, and other add-on products that we work through in our programs for expansion. So what I'm going to talk about is how to get started with expansion programs. So a little bit of what Rona and Anat said, but understanding your base and your buyers, know who you're selling to, talk to product, talk to sales, listen to gong calls, whatever you might have, understand that kind of customer journey and where your expansion programs fit within that, right? Being able to utilize internal data and product data, such as usage data, how many users they have, the types of storage they have, what plan types they have, what are they spending, and then marrying some of that with external data, like the industry that they're in, the company size, what tech install they may have, using third-party signals, like a 6 Sense potentially as well. Next one, partners. Align with your internal customers. Who are your internal customers, and who cares about expansion revenue? Who cares about driving this expansion revenue? Is it your marketing leader? Is it your head of sales? Is it your CRO? Is it your CEO? Who cares about it? Align yourselves to that person, right? For me, it's different parts of our sales team have quotas that are strictly expansion related. So those folks they are my best friends, and they are my best shot at getting programs across the board and meeting my goals and along with theirs, right? Align with them, strategize with them, execute with them. So right, collaborating internally with those that have a vested interest, quota bearing reps, quota bearing sellers. At the same time, right, informing all of the other supporting groups, CS, digital engagement teams, your professional services teams, whatever they may be, right? So that those folks know that are customer facing and understand things that are going on in your world as well. Program types. This is my favorite one. Keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate your programs with tons of triggers, steps, complicated diagrams, racy chart, whatever it is, right? This is for folks that are getting started. If you're getting started, pick one upsell or cross-sell path. Try to get the data right, and we all know everyone's got data issues. Try to get the data right and run a simple program, whether it's an in-person event on your latest roadmap, a webinar about the value of a new product that you may be bringing to market, an outbound sales play that you may be arming your teams with targeting and with emails for, right? And just keep it simple, right? And that could mean migration to higher level plans, capacity types of plays, looking at customers that are maybe nearing their max users and max storage, but have an affinity, for more because they have more employees than what they could potentially be purchasing, right? Add-on services and products, and then new product launches. KPIs. So KPIs, revenue is king. Annette touched on this, so did Lauren. ARR, upsell ARR is the name of the game for us. Don't get too if you're just getting started, don't get too bogged down in vanity metrics. They're important, but they're not the end all be all. Again, start simple. You don't need a fancy attribution model to track your effectiveness. In the early days at Auth0, we track pipeline by connecting dots from programs to Salesforce ops by literally just asking the reps one by one if they had did this event generate this opportunity? And we made those connections, right? That's how simple we started, right? When I started at Egnyte, we had no expansion goals and KPIs. So we simply just started tracking the number of opportunities we had generated from programs in a very kind of similar manner. Now we've got a full-blown attribution model. We've got sophisticated pipeline goals that we do top down, bottoms up, and we've gotten much more sophisticated. So walk, crawl, run here is the name of the game. If you don't know how to get started, right, work by defining what those business outcomes are and aligning, again, to point number one, aligning to the leadership that cares about expansion revenue. That could mean full funnel metrics, right? Like I talked about, MQLs, opportunities, upsell revenue, upsell pipeline, right? Define what's most important, what those most important outcomes are to leadership, and align to those. I went kind of quick, but that's my how to get started with your expansion programs.
Mason, you talked a little bit about that collaboration with CS and with sales, and how do you talk to them before you run a campaign? Do you update them? What do you share with them?
Yeah, so good question. It actually starts in the planning phase. So when we plan, we typically plan, like most folks probably in this call, a quarter ahead. So we're looking a quarter ahead to say, what are all the expansion, what is the expansion goal that we need to meet for the quarter? And then how do we back into the programs that we need to meet that expansion goal, right? So not only do we put together our own expansion plan where we've got our own plays and our own webinars and our own events, our own kind of digital strategy, but we also go and collect inputs from other teams, right? The sales team might have certain expansion plays that they might want to run. The CS team might have their own kind of whatever it is, flavor of the quarter, whatever it is that they want to run. So we gather all of those inputs together and we put together what we call kind of a plan on a page, and we start to socialize that through the entire organization so that everybody is on the same page about, hey, these are all of the expansion programs that are going to help our company drive revenue this quarter, and their inputs from all across the organization. So that when the CSMs, they have a question about something or whatever it is, they can reference this kind of plan on a page and understand, hey, this is what's running in June or in July, and all the things I can take advantage of to invite my customers to, or to, try to see if I can get an upsell out of.
Cool. We have a question from Grace for you, Mason. Can you dig into more about how you use 6 Sense for customers? That we use 6 Sense on a prospect side right now, but we're expanding it and we're expanding the use case and want to see how we can apply it to customer marketing.
Yeah, for sure. So 6 Sense is a powerful tool if you can learn to master it. But the way that we've used 6 Sense and the way that I've used it in the past is we've created separate upsell models that are specific to our customers in 6 Sense. And these are specific keywords that are potential triggers for upsell, right? So, let's say that your customer journey has someone starting at potentially this plan type, and there's maybe a new product that's coming out that you want to try to upsell into your customers, right? Having those keywords built, or keywords surrounding what that product type could potentially do, let's say ransomware for an example, right? Looking at those keywords applied to your customers in 6 Sense and being able to connect those dots to who's doing all the searches for within our base for ransomware, right? And then we now take those and we actually arm sales with those accounts to say, hey, we think that these accounts could be prime for upsells based on some of this data and that's coming out of 6 Sense. So building a separate model helps to do that in 6 Sense, and continuing to refine that model with your kind of new product usage, with products that you're looking to upsell, and applying that to your customers is important.
Cool. Now we have a question saying, I lost my question. Let me see. Have you seen, and this is open for everybody, have you seen any successful upsell paid ads for decision makers? So I don't know if any of you have done.
I haven't done any paid ads, only LinkedIn ads.
Yeah, we've run some paid ads to customers, but with paid ads, right, it's getting scale enough that your costs are kept low. We've tried some kind of retargeting depending on if somebody hits a event landing page, some of that. So we've had success with more of like on the retargeting side around some of our larger events and programs, but we haven't seen a ton of success with just running, taking our kind of large universe of 17,000 customers and applying a peanut butter spread of paid ads to them, right? And it's important because, with all the 17,000 customers, you have to segment them in different ways and look at them. They're all in kind of different journeys and different paths, right? So you might be lucky if you get the same, 1,000 customers in kind of the same situation as others. So, maybe more on the retargeting side, maybe less on the paid ad side. But yeah.
Since you talked about a little bit about the journey, we have another question from Aaron that says, have you tested or do you currently use a customer journey orchestration tools? And if you have seen any positive results?
Customer journey orchestration tool. No, we don't use a customer journey orchestration tool today. We're tracking our customer journey through some different metrics and things in Tatango and in our CRM. So we're using that to say, hey, if they're within this part of purchasing a product, then they go into all of these different kind of phases of the journey. But we don't have a specific orchestration tool that maybe makes it a little more complex.
Cool. And last but not least, because I know we just have a couple more minutes left, and this is again open for everyone. Do you have any specific strategies on how to approach customer marketing to drive conversations from acquired products? I'm not sure if you have, that experience.
From acquired products.
Are you talking about like if one company acquires another tool and now bringing, okay. So I do have some experience in that. I think it it can be a little tricky, right? I think there's a lot of emotion in that you have to really navigate, both sometimes internally, but even externally for the customers. If they really love their product and now it's been bought by some other company, right? I think there tends to be a little bit of skepticism there. So it's really important to, one, go slow and make sure that you truly understand this audience. I think sometimes again, we get like, well, this product is so great, everyone will be so happy to have it. And sometimes that's true, but I think oftentimes we need to really make sure that we understand who this new audience is, where they're coming from, and how this additional solution is going to feel to them, right? How is it going to fit into what they're doing? Is it complementary? Is it replacement? Are these things, are there advantages now that you are under one roof? I think is something else to think about, and to really time your outreach relative to any product work that might be happening. So, sometimes on day one, you've really got two very different tools just under one umbrella, but over time, maybe there's more points of integration, the customer experience gets better. And those are good moments to really be reaching out, because now there's real benefit to the customer in having both of these capabilities coming from one place.
Yeah, that sounds right. Cool. We have a last question, and I think it's a great way to end the webinar. So I'd love if each one of our presenters can chime in. What's been your most successful customer marketing program so far, whose impact has touched the bottom line directly?
I just answered this in the in the chat, but our most successful customer marketing plays have been plays where we provide value. There's some value that we provide to the customer, and I think Anat had touched on this in terms of thought leadership type of campaigns, right? The most successful ones have been things where we offer free security assessments, or any type of kind of free assessment or offer like that really hooks the customer, right? Because there's an exchange of value, right? We're giving the customer something before we even talk about any type of upsell, right? We're helping them, we're helping be good stewards of their business by helping to assess whatever it is, let's say through a free security assessment, helping them to assess their environment, right? And some customers do really well on it, and they go and they kind of wave the flag and say, hey, we crushed it on our security assessment. And those customers maybe not be primed for an upsell, but there's customers that maybe don't do so hot and need a little bit more guidance and support. And there's other products and services that we can offer that we can kind of hook them using that thought leadership assessment. So again, exchange of value, right?
So from my experience, the number one activity always, and not only in this company, has been, in direct touch customer events. So what we do in Radware, we bring together like C-level CISOs, right, decision makers. We hold it as a conference. We let them speak to each other. We teach them a lot of what we know, and in return, we're seeing just immense value. So that has always worked the best. And also, relationship building, customers who are invited to events like this in Israel or in the different territories are just with us forever.
And I'll add, I think both of those are great tactics, and especially what Mason said about value and really thinking about that value for the customer as well as value for you. And I would say the thing that I've also seen work really well are those places where you can get really specific and give the customer a very concrete action item, and really help them understand how taking the next step, whether it's the next product, the upgrade, whatever it is going to return that value to them. So the more specific you can get about, I understand that where you are is right here and you're doing these things. If you add this layer, here's what you're going to see. And if you have a customer proof point that you can use to bring that back around that helps them see themselves, that's really impactful as well.
Well, we're out of time. We're actually over time. So thank you everybody for staying a bit longer, answering the question. Thank you, Anat, Lauren, Mason, for your time today and sharing, everything that you've learned along the way. Thank you for everyone who participated, and we hope to see you at the roundtable and the next webinar.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
You guys can drop off. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
You
you.
guys were amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.